Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about missiles in attack vector. Before we begin, a few things to cover. Again, this is not a comprehensive course, just like parts 1, 2, and 3. We'd be just enough to get you started in learning about the subject. The best way to learn is to play and make mistakes. And again, this is not authoritative. The game is updated from time to time with errata. Sometimes I make mistakes, etc. The concepts that we're going to be covering today are the types of missiles, the missile code, which is used to describe the missiles, how to launch a missile, how to move the missile in flight or shifting missiles, how to deploy the munitions out of a missile, and the concept of secrecy with the missiles. Now, there are two main types of missiles in attack vector, big missiles and tri-missiles. We're not covering Catyushas today as they're fairly simplistic once you get the hang of big missiles and tri-missiles. A big missile is simply that it's the biggest missile bus in the game. It's just big and carries lots of munitions and/or fuel and/or armor. Tri-missile launcher can launch 3 smaller missiles, 1 per segment. They're smaller, but you can fit more of them in. Other than the difference in size, the missiles operate identically. Now the missile code. This is how missiles are described in the rules. Missiles are extremely configurable, and there's rules in the rulebook on how to actually create your own missiles, which are not covered today, but it all boils down to the code. The code starts off with either, return laser pointer. The code starts off with either T or B. T for tri-missile, B for big missile. Next is how many segments of burn the missile will have. Missiles have 2 stages of flight. There's the burn where the engine's ignited and it's gaining acceleration. And there's the deployment, which is afterburn, which it can deploy its bays. And speaking of bays, the next part of the missile code is basically what's in a bay and how many bays of that type exist. Each bay can hold one and only one type of munition, but there can be multiple bays within a missile. And finally, at the end, we have what's called the reliability number. It's more of a scenario thing, so we're not covering that today. But the lower the number, the better. Over here on the side is a couple of the codes that are used in the missile code. So for example, bus armor, you'll have ARM followed by a number. That's how much armor that bay provides to the missile, which is used in point defense. Next up is 50. That means it's a 50 kilogram shell bay, which holds 3 50 kilogram impactors. 100 is a 100 kilogram shell bay. So that holds 2 100 kilogram impactors. 200 means it's a 200 kilogram shell bay, and it has 1 impactor per bay. DCY is a decoy. It's a decoy bay. It can hold between 1 to 6 decoys. And it's mostly used in combination with nukes. So if you really want to mess with somebody, deploy some decoys and not have any nukes in the missile. That will really scare them. And here are some sample codes. So this first one, T, it's a tri-missile. 3, it has burn 3. So it'll accelerate for 3 turns before burning out so you can deploy your munitions. The missile itself has 4 points of armor, so it's more difficult to shoot down while it's incoming. Then it has a 100 kilogram impactor bay, so again, that'll contain 2 100 kilogram impactors, and it has 5 bays. So this sucker will have a total of 10 100 kilogram impactors that it can deploy. The second missile right here is a B, so it's a big missile, so it's larger. It has a burn of 2, so it'll accelerate for 2 segments before it can deploy its munitions. It has 50 kilogram impactors with armor piercing. It has 6 of those bays. It also has 50 kilogram fragmentation with 2 points of hardening. It has 6 of those bays. So as you can see, these can get quite complex in their codes. So it's saying they have the rulebook open a first couple times so you can read the codes. So this has a total of 12 bays with lots of different impactors. So that'll be a total of 36 impactors, half of which will be armor piercing. The other half will be fragments with 2 points of hardening. Now all missiles have 4 basic special abilities in the game that differentiates them from coil guns or lasers. First of all, they do not take any power to launch. So if your batteries are empty, your reactors are down, you can still launch missiles. They have an ability called offset launch. We'll see an example of that in a second. By spending a flex point, you can launch a missile up to 3 windows outside of arc. They can shift dodge zones for a flex point, and also they can deploy their munitions to adjacent zones. We'll cover all that in the next couple slides. So offset launch. For a flex point, a missile can be launched up to 3 windows outside of arc. So up here at the top, we have one of the tri-missile launchers off of Rafik. You can see its standard windows are right here, right next to the engine. But by spending a flex point, it can launch that missile anywhere in the purple zone because all these windows are 3 away from one of these windows in its firing arc diagram, including these right here, because they go 1, 2, 3. Same thing for these 2 over here. So yeah, this goes from here up to this ring, over to here, and then down. So that's a total of 3. Do not underestimate the power of the diagonal. While the missile is under burn, by spending a flex point, you can shift it 1 dodge zone. You can do this once per missile. So first of all, under flight, all these red numbers down here means that the missile's under burn. Once under burn, it can shift a dodge zone. And as a reminder, the dodge zones are these windows up here. There's a total of 9 dodge zones on the Shell Star. So this missile right here in the middle, which is the number 1, can shift 1 this way, 1 this way, 1 this way, and 1 this way. At any point during its burn time, which is these 5 segments right here. So if you fire a missile at a ship and looks at its Shell Star, it goes, oh, I have to make a choice which way to dodge. But no matter which way I dodge, during this 5 segments, the missile can adjust to chase after me. So it can create a period of uncertainty for your opponent, which is the entire point. Missiles can also deploy into adjacent zones. For example, this missile right here in the middle can deploy its bays to this area, this area, this area, or this area, again creating uncertainty as to where the target ship should dodge, if it wishes to dodge at all. Now remember, we have multiple bays on a missile. Like this right here has 12 bays. Each bay can deploy to a different zone. So because the bay has like 3 munitions right here, all 3 of those munitions must go to the same zone. They're not divided between 3 separate zones. But when you have 12 bays, you have a lot of choices. And all this is set up at launch time. So you configure your bays at launch, and then once you reach the burnout phase, which is for this missile, these 2 segments, you can deploy your bays either one at a time or all at once. Okay, now how to actually do this with the AVID Assistant. So here I've set up the Demo 3 game just as a quick example. None of the ships actually have missile launchers, which is why it was not part of the original series of videos. But for today, we'll pretend it does. So today's target, we're going to shoot at the orange ship with a burn 2 missile. It'd be 8 segments of flight time. On our turn sequence, it's done in the launch seeking weapon step. So on here, we just make sure we select launch, just like with a coil gun. And to launch, we come down here and we select our Shell Star. As with coil guns, you select a zone. The center is usually a good zone to pick unless you're more advanced and have a plan. Instead of clicking the plus to add an impactor, we instead click the missile icon down here. The missile icon will give us a smaller Shell Star looking layout, because these are our deployment zones. Our missile's in the middle and can deploy to any of these 5 zones. In the same zone as the missile, 1 above it, 1 below it, 1 to the left, and 1 to the right. So for our missile, as we're using a burn 2 missile, we're going to use this one right here. So it has 6 bays, that have 50 AP munitions in it, and 6 bays with 50 FG 2 hardening missiles in it. So first thing, we want to start deploying them. So we just click, and just looks like an impactor. So 50 AP, add. So now in the center zone of the missile, you can see up here, we have one bay of 50 kilogram impactors with armor piercing, and we want to put 2 more of those in there. So far, we have our impactors right here. As you can see, our missile code is starting to appear down here. So we have 3 more bays of 50 kilogram impactors. So let's add some up here. 50 impactors, add, and we'll add 2 more. So a total of 3. So now we have a total of 6 bays of 50 kilogram armor piercing impactors. We have 3 bays up here for a total of 9 impactors, and 3 bays down here for a total of 9 more impactors. So far, so good. Now let's add the fragmentation ones with hardening 2. So let's add some in the middle because it's always a good place to scare people. So just add hardening 2. And we can select that from here to add, let's add a total of 2 in here. So we still have 4 more bays. So we'll add over here. And the same thing over here. So this is what our deployment looks like. We're going to have 15 50 kilogram impactors here in the middle. 6 off to this side, 6 off to this side, and 9 up here. If we click on the zone, we can tell that 3 of these are going to be armor piercing. 2 of these over here will be fragmentation with hardening 2. Same thing over here. In the middle, we're going to have 2 bays of the fragmentation and 3 bays of the AP. And you can see down here our missile code, so we can match it up with what we have written down for our ship. 50 AP times 6 and 50 FG 2 hardening times 6. So this is our deployment. We have all of our bays assigned. We click Add Missile. And see down here in our little chart, little drop down, we have our missile code for our missile. We click Next. And we have a 1 in the middle because that's our missile. You can see our 2 segments of thrust, as well as the usual information from the shell star. With all that, we click Next, and we launch. Next topic is shifting. So we have advanced to the next fire order step, and we want to shift our missile. Now we need to shift the missile this segment, if we're going to shift it at all, because this is our last segment of burn. To shift, select the shell star zone, select the missile, and you can see we have our various arrows here. We can shift it up, we can shift it down, so up, no shift, down, left, right. Or if we don't have any of these highlighted, it stays where it's at. If you notice when I shift it up, these 2 sides gray out. That's because it'll be up 1, and there's no zones to left or right, so any munitions in those zones will simply go away. Same thing happens when I shift it to 1 below center. Left and right don't exist, therefore those munitions will be gone. So back to the center, left and right are exactly the same thing. So that's to the left, no top and bottom are blocked, so you lose these up here. Shift it this way, the top and bottom will be blocked, so you lose the ones up here. And once you shift, you just click Confirm Move, and the missile will shift in that direction. but we're not going to shift it right now because we're smack dab in the center and our target is not started to dodge at all. If you need to destroy the missile because it was shot down, you just click Destroy Missile, and it will go away. Next up is how to deploy the shell stars. We have advanced to the next segment, and in the tab right here, we selected Launch as our orders for the turn. It is during the launch impactors that deployment from missiles actually occurs. It's important because your opponent can actually shoot down your missile before you can deploy the munitions on the same segment. So to deploy, just click your shell star, click the missile. You can deploy all the bays with a single click of deploy all bays, or you can click on a zone, say this one right here, and you can choose which bays to deploy. Remember, each of these is a single bay of 3 munitions. So click this one, and this one, and we'll go deploy selected. Now those are deployed, and you can see the impactor count has gone down here because those have already been deployed. After you deploy a bay, you click next. As you can see now, we have all these things that have been deployed. So we have a total of 9 impactors, as well as the missile in the center zone. So again, we have a 50, these are single impactors now, 50, 50, 50, 50 fragment, 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 AP, 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 and the missile. So that's how you deploy a single bay. And again, if you want to deploy them all, just click on here, click the missile, deploy all bays. And now all the bays have been deployed. So now you can see that all the bays have been deployed. However, the missile bus is still on the shell star because your opponent does not know that it's empty. The last topic for missiles is secrecy. If you click on your shell star like center zone, you notice all these numbers over here. They are not in any particular order. We start with 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 12, 15, and so on. This is because of the secrecy in the game. To explain that, I have to show you what this shell star looks like from the opponent's side. So I'll bring over this incognito window that I have set up as the opponent and select the same shell star. And it's aimed at the orange ship. So there we go. He now sees that there are all these munitions that have been deployed. So if he clicks on his zone, all he sees is that these are 50 kilogram impactors. So bring these up side by side. So you know that S1 is a 50 kilogram impactor with armor piercing. Your opponent does not. The numbers are randomized to prevent your opponent from trying to guess, what your pattern is. You might have a pattern like, oh, I want all my armor piercing to be the lower numbers, all my fragmentations to be the higher numbers, so you can keep track of it yourself. But if your opponent spends time trying to guess your pattern, it just slows down the game. So the app randomizes all the shell star information, so your opponent doesn't have to spend time guessing because there's no pattern for you to guess. So yeah, we just scroll up and down here. Down here, it tells you your missile is empty. Your opponent does not get that information. And if we visit a different zone, the same thing as well. All your opponent sees is a bunch of random ID codes and that these are 50 kilogram impactors, while you see what they actually are. So this is one of the big things with secrecy in attack vector, and it's one of the major uses of missiles is trying to bait your opponent into doing things based on incomplete information. It's also incredibly important when you have decoys and nukes because you don't want your opponent guessing which one of those things out there is a nuke because they will shoot it down. Oh, and that's all there is with missiles and the Shell Star and the AVID Assistant. If you have any questions, feel free to ask below. Missiles are more complex than anything else in the game because you can do offset launches, you can shift the dodge window, you have to set up your deployment pattern ahead of time, and then you can deploy piecemeal over time or all at once, and so on. So this is a fairly complex interface to design and use, so feel free to ask questions down below, and if we need to make a supplement number 2, missile Q&A, we will make a supplement number 2, missile Q&A. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. It helps the YouTube algorithm know that there's good content here for other people to watch. Have a good day. I'll catch you later.